There is a little guard right here, and then you can release as it goes. It rides the edge of the fabric, keeping it right there along the edge. And the cool thing about it is what I'll show you here in a second. You want to see what? My feet? Oh, those feet. Sure. Let's talk about my favorite sewing machine feet this week for Tricky Thursday. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Trisha, your pattern nerd friend, owner of Creative Costume Academy. We talk about all things fitting, pattern making, and sewing here on my corner of the internet. Thank you for joining me today. We are going to be talking about sewing machine feet and some of my favorites. And because I usually live in the land of industrial machines, I will be sharing some of my favorite feet that I use on my industrial machines, but I also have a few that I like to use on my domestic Bernina machine as well. So here we go. We are going to start with my domestic machine. Now this is an old girl. I don't even think they make this model anymore, but she's an old reliable and I love working with her. Because she's an old girl, I don't have all the fancy feet, but the feet that I do have usually just live back here. So I always know where to find them. It just has a regular foot in there right now, but this one is one that I wanted to talk about because this is a zipper foot, but it allows you to go all the way to one side or the other. And I know that other sewing machine companies besides Bernina have this foot. And this is one that I believe Kenneth King, this is one of his favorite feet. And the cool thing about it is what I'll show you here in a second. So here's the cool thing about this foot is you can put it on either side. So if I had something that I was trying to get really close to the edge of on this side, you know, if I had like another seam or something that was bulky right in there that was going to come up right on the edge of it. So I could get really close to that edge by using this foot and it's not going to run into anything. Same thing if I wanted to get close on the other side, I could just go, it has this little bar in between. See how there is a bar in between. So you either set it on this side or you set it on this side. So if I had something that I was trying to get close to on the other side, like this, then I could go this way and then the needle is going to go up and down right into that hole. And especially with this model, and maybe your machine does the same thing, if I change the needle position over, I can get even closer to that edge. See, my needle position is now a little bit more over and I'm even closer to that outside edge. So you can really control how close you're getting to different parts of what you're sewing on. My next favorite foot for this Bernina is the buttonhole foot. I mean, it's pretty standard and I know there's other styles of buttonhole feet for domestic machines, but I really like that it has this groove in here. So while you're doing your buttonhole, it really rides in that groove and allows to give you a really nice, clean finished buttonhole. So there you have it. I obviously could get this to be a little bit better with the tension, with not pulling up the white thread. Now there are one-step buttonholers or where they measure the size of the button. Those are cool too, but this is definitely a reason why I always keep domestic machines on hand, because industrial machines, unless you have a buttonhole machine just for buttonholes, I keep this around to do all of my buttonholes with. Last up for the domestic for me is this is the number 5 for my series. It's the blind hemmer foot. So this allows you to put a blind hem on a garment. So you just pop it on like the other feet. Now to set up your hem, you do it like any other hem. Okay, this is the hem that I'm folding up at the bottom of whatever you're making, your dress, top, anything like that. And then you want to fold it back on itself so that you have a little bit of the hem that is going to be on the inside sticking out, and then the folded part is the body of the garment facing to the left. And how you do this is there is a little guard right here. See this little guard guy here? That guard rides the edge of that fold. So you don't want to see tons of it. This is not more than 1/8 of an inch. And even you can tighten and loosen this nut here and it will move that slightly over. You want to be in a zigzag stitch because it will go straight for a little while and then go into a zigzag. And for my particular model, I want to have stitch number 3. So I'm going to put it up to number 3. With that little red guy next to the number 3 and make sure that I am in the green setting, which I am. Then I'm setting my stitch length, however makes the most sense, and I can go. What it's going to do is it's going to notice how the needle position, because I have it in this setting, is to this side of the guard, to the right side of the guard. It's going to go straight for a couple of stitches, then it's going to zigzag and catch the body of the garment, and then it's going to continue. So what it's doing is going straight, straight, straight. Oh, I'm going to catch a little bit, straight, straight, straight. I'm going to catch a little bit. So sometimes you have to play around with how wide your zigzag is, how long your stitch, but this is how it works. And this is what it looks like. So it gives you some straight stitches. Again, I could probably do some fine tuning with my tension so that I'm not pulling up that bobbin thread, but I'm just trying to show you what the cool feet will do. And obviously if I picked a better color for my fabric, then you would see this less noticeably. You can also, as I mentioned, play around with how wide that zigzag is, how long your stitches are, and that could be much less noticeable, and this is what it looks like on the inside. But it's a really handy foot for doing a blind hem and getting that nice finish. It just maybe a little bit of fine tuning, but one of my faves. I know that Bernina has a lot of other really cool feet that you can use with your machine. And if you have another machine brand, they likely have their own feet. Bernina definitely only works with Bernina and so on and so forth. So make sure that you're using the feet that will work with your machine. And some are more generic and kind of can work with some of the others, like the Singer Heavy Duty and stuff like that. Another popular foot that I hear is very well loved with the domestic machines especially is the walking foot machine for sewing knits. I never had the luxury of sewing knits with a walking foot machine. I either had to make it work with the machine that they gave me, you know, crank out the costumes, gotta be done, get on stage, or I use my industrial machines which sew stretch like butter. And I have some other, oh, excuse you, Levi. I have some other tricks that I like to use when sewing stretch materials that help outside of the foot, but I do think that that is a great foot to have as well. And for those of you noticing that maybe I have the same outfit on as the last couple of videos that I've shot, if you did notice, thank you so much for being that much of a fan. It's all about the content. I'm all about helping you, and I'm less worried about the costume changes at this point. So let's go check out what I like on my industrial machine, shall we? Now, I've got a couple of different kinds of industrial sewing machines. Obviously, I have my serger and my cover stitch, and I have two zigzag Pfaff machines. Pfaff 138 is the model, actually. And then I also have a single needle Brother that just does straight stitch. Now, the thing with the Pfaff is the shaft on the Pfaff machines is a bit longer than the shaft on my Brother, which I find that the Brother shaft, and here you can see the difference. This is the Pfaff and this is the Brother, so it's a lot shorter. So obviously I can't take this foot from my Brother and use it on my Pfaff, but I actually did find a way to do that. So if you have an industrial machine, do make sure that you know what type of feet it can take, and I'll show you up close what mine looks like. So it's meant for this longer shafted foot, which is great because I can lift and sew through some really thick things, especially when I'm doing stretch because it is a zigzag machine. But when I want to try to use different feet, because these are harder to get because they're more unique, the Brother machine seems to be the more common industrial foot height. So I have found a way to use my Brother feet on my Pfaffs, and that has opened up a whole new wonderful world to me. So if you look at the Pfaff, this is the longer shaft, and that just goes in there and you can tighten the screw, and that's your regular foot. But if I were to put this shorter shafted foot onto here, it would be too high and it wouldn't work. But one of my FAFs actually in this shaft that you connect it to had a second lower hole. So I was like, what the heck, let's try it out. So you have to take the screw completely out, then you can screw it into the lower hole, and then these lower shafted feet from the brother can work on my FAF. Yay! So that was a happy accident. And then my other FAF didn't have this second hole, but I was able to drill a second hole in the correct place, and now I can use these feet on both of my FAF machines. One of my favorite feet that I've taken over from the brother is what I call the ski foot. It looks like there's two skis, is why I call it that. I think its actual use is for sewing through velvet, so that as you're sewing along, it pushes through the pile and you can have a smoother, it's not gonna bunch up as much, I believe is why that is called that. And some of these come longer and shorter, but these are just a couple that I happen to get my hands on, and I love to use them for zippers. Let me show you why. So I really like using this foot for zippers because a lot of time, not actually in this example because my teeth are a little bit away, but a lot of times you don't want to have your stitching line right next to the teeth because the zipper foot can't glide as you're opening and closing the zipper. So this gives you the exact amount. It's like just 1/8 of an inch. So if I'm riding the edge of that foot as I'm stitching and the teeth are right here close to it, I'm not going to hit the teeth, and I'm just the perfect amount away from the teeth that it's not too far away and it's not too close, and I have a consistent line to follow. So this is my favorite zipper install foot. My next favorite feet are these top stitching feet. And these essentially do the same thing, only in different positions. So the way these feet work, this is about 1/8 of an inch from the edge, and I am going to show you how this works. But this edge, this side of the foot, has a little spring on one side. It rides the edge of the fabric, keeping it right there along the edge, and then you keep your top stitching really straight. This one does the same thing. See, it has a spring foot as well on the right side, only it's a little bit farther away than this foot. So it's great for when you're doing a double stitching. Let me show you how they work. So as you can see, I have that sprung foot along the edge of this seam, and I just go right along and it keeps it really straight for me. And I do have some top stitching thread in here. This is the second foot, so I have it set up the same. You know, it's following along the edge of that seam, but now this time it's going to do the top stitch a little further in. And I don't have to try really hard to make sure that my top stitching is straight. And here is the end result. See how straight, how clean it is. And this is really great, especially if you're doing like curved seams or something like that. That foot with the spring edge really makes it easy to follow along the edge of that seam, making sure that your stitching is super even. I use this all the time, especially when I'm making jeans. The only thing is, or just something to be aware of, is they do have different widths of this. So just keep that in mind when you're buying your foot. You pick the right one that is going to do what you want it to do. And the last foot that is one of my favorites that I want to share with you is a ruffler foot. So it's got this little step on it and just the single hole. Now there are other versions of this. This is just one that I happen to have my hands on. I've used it a couple of times. It is hard to gauge how much gather you're going to get, but once you've figured it out and made it work for you, it works really well. So let me show you how this one works. So the way that this works and why it has that step is that it will pull more fabric toward it. Well, it'll be going this way, pull more fabric toward it than what the feed dogs are pulling. So it really helps if you put your finger behind the foot like this, and then you can release as it goes. And you can see that it's gathering and ruffling up because it's using that step on the foot to do that. And as you can see, it works really well. Now this is a very lightweight linen, so it works really well. The thickness of your fabric will make a difference, so I would advise you doing a gauge, testing out some different things, but it can really help if you have a bunch of gathers to do. I love it. Now, this doesn't even scratch the surface with the amount of sewing machine feet that are available out there for both your domestic machine and industrial machines. I mean, there's cool feet like bias tape feet, and there's roller feet and Teflon feet and pin tuck feet, all kinds of other really cool feet, but these are the ones that I use the most. And why I like to use them, I just find that I seem to need these extra helpers when I'm sewing with most of my projects. So if you have a foot that you really love, share with us down below, because I always love to like exchange resources and see what other people are using, because I think that's really cool about sewing, is that we all bring different things to the table and there's always new and cool stuff to learn about. So that is the quick overview on feet today for you for this week's Tricky Thursday. And I just want to give another gentle reminder about PatternCon because if you are a pattern nerd like I am, love all things garment and costume making, then why have you not gotten your ticket yet to PatternCon? PatternCon is the first in-person completely dedicated to pattern making and fitting, which of course includes sewing, in-person event. It is a con for people who love patterns. And don't worry, you don't have to be super advanced. You could be just curious and wanting to learn more about fitting and pattern making in general. We have beginner classes all the way up to more advanced and really going down that like, ooh, cool, I can't wait to figure out how to make this rabbit hole. But we are closing ticket sales soon. We will be closing ticket sales June 26th for this year. This year it is hosted in Atlanta, Georgia, August 1st and 2nd, 2 days full of classes, but it's so much more than that. We have keynote speakers, we're feeding you food, there's tons of prizes, very cool vendors, and honestly, it's more about coming together in community with people who get it and being able to swap resources and networking. It was a blast for our first year last year in Charlotte, and this year we're almost doubling our attendees for Atlanta. But tickets are going to close soon and classes are filling up fast. So if this sounds like something you need to be at, check out the link down below and join us in August, and so we can celebrate and hang out and learn all kinds of cool stuff together. All right, that's all I got for you this week. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.